introduce themselves. So we'd first like to begin our council meeting with a prayer. So we've asked Councilman Sorensen, and then we'll follow it with a pledge by Councilman Miller. So,
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful we can assemble tonight as members of the city council and staff and citizens of our community. We pray that we'll be guided and directed to make decisions that are in the best interest of all of us in Springville, and that we'll be congenial and be thoughtful and discuss the things that are of importance tonight. We're grateful again for all the blessings we have and ask thy continued blessing upon us and our community and the people that live here. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
amen.
I invite you to please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. I need a motion for approval of tonight's agenda or an amendment.
I would like to make an amendment, Mayor, to
Okay.
have Carla, I'm not exactly sure what item she is, maybe 7? For Carla to move up in the rankings, for her agenda item to be moved to number 1. No, number 2,
Up to 5.
up to 5,
Okay?
okay.
Okay, I need a motion then for approval of this meeting's agenda with the amendment of moving number 7 up to number 5. Is that correct?
6,
I'm sorry, number 6 up to number 5.
I'll make a motion to approve this meeting's agenda with the exception or the modification of moving item number 6 to item number 5.
Okay, I have a motion. Second.
Second.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. We appreciate anyone who is here. We'd like to remind everyone, if you'd like to make public comment, we have one public comment from a citizen. Anybody else that would like to make a public comment to us, we welcome you to come here. We'd be happy to take 3 or 4 minutes. We can't take any official action on what you're talking about, but we certainly welcome the public to say what they would like to. So we also have a number of youth, as you can see up on the stand. I'm grateful that they're up here. They get to see behind the scenes how this whole works and actually find out that there's drawers full of candy up here. So, yeah. But what I'd like to do is have them introduce themselves and maybe why they're here and then what school they are too. So I'll start with the young lady that's here in the audience. So, okay. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll start down here on the very end.
Hi, I'm Jaden Turner, and I'm here for Utah Studies.
I'm Corgan Howell, and I'm here for Utah Studies.
I'm Tyler Fay, and I'm here for Utah Studies.
I'm Trevor Coiner, and I'm here for Utah Studies.
I'm Ben Jenkins, and I'm here for Utah Studies.
I'm Colin Sorensen, and I'm here for Utah Studies.
Great. Sounds,
How come Courtney's not up there?
well, she said she didn't want the candy. I had heard this. You're welcome to come up here. You're right behind me if you'd like to come. So would you like to come up? Sure, come on up. You can be right here with Liz and I. Now, there's method in my madness of having them come up here. I think it's important for them. Sitting in the audience is one thing, but being able to come up here and be a part and see what we see and kind of see what happens up here, I think it helps add on what they're trying to accomplish in their school education. So we're very grateful that you could come up here. So, okay. We have one citizen. Mr. Waite, would you like to take a moment and address the council and these students?
Well, as a former teacher, I can't resist congratulating these students for their efforts to increase their education. The 175th anniversary of the event that gave Hobble Creek its name will come in February 2024. Many residents, especially new ones, do not know the story of the incident that resulted in the name. I won't take the time tonight to recount the story, but I do have a suggestion. I'm wondering if City Council might find it feasible to consider placing a monument similar in style but not quite so large as those on the Contractor Legacy Park. It could be placed next to the footbridge that crosses the creek from the public library to the park. I believe that enough space is available on the library side of the bridge where it might get the most exposure. A plaque on the monument could relate the experience that resulted in the name and its subsequent widespread use throughout the community and the creek's canyons, extending even to today. The cost of such a monument could come from private donations. I'd be willing to give a sizable donation, for me at least, towards construction of such a monument. If the footbridge does not have a name, you might consider giving it one. The Oliver B. Huntington footbridge, in honor of the pioneer who gave the creek its name, seems to be an appropriate one. I'd appreciate your consideration of these suggestions when your busy schedule permits. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Very good thoughts, and maybe Stacy, you can make note of that, and we can talk a little bit about that. Okay, very good. You've already done that. So this is a good question for the students up here. Do you know why Hobble Creek was named Hobble Creek?
No.
Does anybody know? Okay, do you know, Mr. Sorensen?
Now I do.
Oh, did your grandpa whisper that in your ear? Okay, why don't you tell everybody why it was named Hobble Creek? And speak into the mic so everybody can hear.
I didn't get to telling a lot, but we'll see what.
Okay, all right.
Because they used to put things on horses called hobbles to stop them from running away, and a horse got in the creek and they had to chase it around.
That's very accurate. They put hobbles on so that in the nighttime they would not move and leave. And so they camped for the night, and the next morning they got up and their horses were gone. And what did they find in the creek?
The horses.
The hobbles. The hobbles. And the horses were long gone. They had to go find the horses, but the hobbles were in the creek, and so they called it Hobble Creek. So there you go. And I think originally they were going to name the city Hobble Creek, if I remember right. So, yeah. Oh. There we go. There we go. Wonderful. Okay, there's your little education. That you can write that one down for what you learned. Okay, we have some items on the consent agenda, item 1, 2, 3, and 4, and any discussions on any of the agenda items that are before you tonight. Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay, a second.
I'll second.
Okay, call for a roll call vote. Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Snelson?
Yes.
Craig is excused. Ms. Crandall? Okay. Okay, Carla, you're on.
All right, so I am here again for the moderate income housing plan. I feel like the executive summary should really say Carla didn't read the instructions. So we brought the moderate income housing plan with the strategies before you. You approved them. We sent them to the state as we required, submitted them. The state sent us back a letter slapping our hands saying we didn't do it right. The non-compliance letter is in your packet, and basically they're just very, very, very nitpicky. Like I used an abbreviation when I was supposed to spell it out, and then there's also some confusion as to exactly what we had to do when listing our strategies, including very specific tasks. So rather than just saying we're going to improve a zone for density, and yes, we've done that, we had to indicate where we had done that. So I went in, and I kind of reformatted it a little bit as well. The strategies are listed in more of a table format. So we indicated that we had made zoning changes on the Allens block, that we had done Lakeside Landing, and so indicated specific areas where we had made these provisions for higher density. Nothing substantive at all has changed within this as far as our strategies or anything. It's just a matter of outlining the tasks and indicating specific benchmarks as to when those would be done or when they were completed. So that's really all you're looking at now. Before it's even been presented to you, it was submitted to the state's moderate income housing program manager to make sure that it would be all right, that it would pass as it was written. I was told it was good to go, so we wanted to present it to you so then we can just get it in. Planning Commission voted to pass it with 4-0 with 3 absences, and really no discussion. And so now it's just before you again as a formality as part of the process for adopting an amendment to a general plan.
Carla, how much?
You're left.
Sorry, I can't go. I was like,
Hey, how many were actually made it through the state's first?
you mean of mine?
approval? No,
or
I'm
of
talking
the,
across the whole
Who
state.
knows? I have
It's-
really no idea.
25%, so 75% of the cities were rejected.
Yes. And they actually said that my number one was that I didn't follow the exact language in the, as indicated in the state code because I wrote MIH instead of moderate income housing.
That was the worst part.
No, that was just one of the things I did wrong. So then the other ones were just not listing the specific tasks. But yeah, they were that nitpicky. So that was the changes that I needed to make, and so I've made those as well as indicating more specific benchmarks and how we are tracking and managing those things.
Yeah, and I think that this is becoming a very, very, as Troy knows, he's been on these phone calls, that this is incredibly sensitive area, and they're going to assess penalties against cities, and I think the record needs to show that in spirit and in letter we are following it and doing it. We just haven't documented the way they wanted us to document. I think that's important for the citizens to know. So.
And I need and it all to be completely transparent. The program manager at the state, her name is Alyssa Gamble. She's been fabulous to work with, recognizing that a lot of states there was a lot of misunderstanding coming from the state. Obviously, since only 25% of the communities got it right, there was obviously some misunderstanding. She says, as I was talking to her, she said, this helps us to understand how we're not getting the training and the expectations across to the cities.
Right.
And so, but yeah, this is all up for, there's even more stuff coming in with the legislative session, and it will be the next one where we actually have to list who in the city is responsible for that. So that is why that column, in the original one, it listed who the city would be responsible for carrying that out. Those were not required, so I was able to delete those sections for next year.
Sounds good.
So that's like that.
So questions for Carla?
I'd just like to make a comment. It's not really a question, but I was in a meeting with a legislator on my table, and we had a discussion specifically about this. And I asked her point blank, how is Springville doing this way? And she said Springville is probably one of the best. And that was, I don't know, a couple of months ago. So, like the mayor says, in spirit and in deed, we're doing better than most anyway. And this just solidifies our position, I think. So that's just the comment I wanted to make.
Yeah, and Alyssa mentioned that ours wasn't completely off, whereas some are just so far gone there. They're like, did you even read the part what you're supposed to do? Said ours was just really just small substantive changes.
Technicalities.
Yeah, of what we hadn't included that needed to be listed, and so I didn't feel too bad about it, other than I don't like non-compliance letters. Yeah, I don't like non-compliance letters.
Okay, other questions for Carla? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then for approval of item number 6.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 02-2023, amending the moderate income housing element of the Springville City General Plan.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a roll call vote. Ms. Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Snelson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Carla. We'll put you on the way back home now.
Drive safe.
Okay, let's move to item number 5. Sean Black. We'll move back up to 5.
All right, thank you for being here. Just look at this paper right here. I left one on each of your desk, and it'll kind of explain what's happening. So this is the Clyde Recreation Center's gas bill, and where that little red circle is, that top number, the 1,700 for 355, that's what we bought back in June of 2021 for the month of December. And so you can see the column over there, at that price of $1,700, you spent $6,000 for natural gas heating the recreation center. And then you go down below and you have the 261 number there. That's the amount that you needed more to heat the CRC. And so that came at a market price of $29 a decatherm, and for $7,000, almost $8,000. So it blew out the bill for heating the recreation center. So I went out and talked with our gas marketer and trying to get more gas for extending. So our old hedges went till June of 2026. So it's full months after that, and it's additional up until then, is what I'm asking for at the 550. So it's kind of loaded with winters. The CRC uses double the amount of gas in the winter as what it does in the summer. And so, and natural gas is generally more expensive in the winter months as well, even on the market. And so, after having a couple of months of this, I was like, we can't have any exposure. I was trying to get 90% coverage when we put this together, and I was guessing a lot on how much the CRC would use, but it's right up around 2,000 during all the winter months from November to through February.
So this thing that you're proposing is going to do away with this problem in the future?
Yes.
Is
Yeah,
the bottom
for the
line.
5 years, for the next 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so that they can budget and know what they're gonna spend.
Do they use gas for the pool heating?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually. I'm surprised it's this low.
The building's really efficient. It's, their air handlers on top, they pull out moisture, and somehow they're pulling out the heat and recirculating it in the building at the same time they're pulling out moisture. So they're really high-tech air handlers up on top of the building there, so.
Will that backup gen set, will that cover the whole facility? Or is that just like emergency lighting and stuff? Just the backup generator they have on the side?
Oh, I don't know. I'm
Just
not,
wondering what that would put out.
I can't even remember what KW it is. I think is that 200?
Pretty small. It's really just to keep lights on.
Like emergency stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Is it smaller than this one?
Yes,
here?
much.
Yeah.
We have them on that and the library, and they're basically just for, both when the lights go out, just so you can evacuate the building, but also in a true emergency situation, we'd have limited function in the building to house people.
I think they're about 125 kW, and then this one on this building's a 200, and the one at the power plant. So I mean, they could do quite a bit, but it's.
I don't know how they are at those other, this facility and the other one, but it might be a good idea to stick a little fence around that thing or something. It just seems like, it's just kind of open, exposed, not even for visual, I'm just talking about.
Yeah.
If those apartments ever get down across the street, there'll be a lot more people there.
Sean, okay, I'm just trying to help these kids and myself understand. So per month, was it the 14,000 or the 7,700 that was the bill for the?
14,164
Oh, okay.
in that bottom corner.
Okay, good. I told him right.
Yeah, that's got everything in the market amounts that they burned, and then a little bit of the transport charges at $350. You get that every month.
So, well, I just wanted to tell them because they all swim.
That costs a lot to
I just
take
wanted to
care
tell
of the
them how
building.
much
Yeah.
it is to heat that.
We could turn the heat off.
I think Stacy turned it down a little, and it actually helped because I was expecting to see a 2100, and I was scared, and so they did their part. They brought it down a little bit.
Did anyone notice? A couple people are like, are you kidding?
It swam harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Questions for Sean? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then for approval of the motion.
Okay, I can,
Mhm.
okay, oh my goodness. I'd like to make a motion to approve purchasing 45,900 MMBTU of natural gas for the period of March 23rd through March 28th at a price not to exceed a total average price of $5.30 per MMBTU, which amount will not exceed $24,270 as approved by Power Director Sean Black.
Okay, I have a motion. Oh, Kim.
243, oh, it's $243. No, 243,000. Oh, that's, $243,000. $270 as approved by Power Director Sean Black.
Okay, perfect. And second?
I'll second.
Okay, as a roll call vote, Mr. Snelson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Ms. Crandall? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Josh, you want to move to number 7, please?
As to whether it's approved or not.
That's a good idea, isn't it?
Mayor, council members, thank you. So tonight I have some amendments to the Main Street South Gateway Zone. For context, and as represented in your staff report, as the developers for the Allens block submitted their first site plan application, going through and reviewing the code and seeing, we found that some of the overlapping implications of the changes we had made at different points were unanticipated and created a situation that we hadn't meant them to create. So the overlapping step back standards from 300 south and 100 west overlapped on that northwest corner of the site to create a spot where you couldn't build what had been proposed and what had actually been included in the ordinance, and it unintentionally impacted the townhomes on that corner. So we, as you're familiar, we have a section of the north side of the block, so directly south of 300 South, where to address initial council concern with the transition from the height and scale of the seniors hotel or the Pier 49 pizza building to the new project, that for 50 feet south of 300 South, the height would be limited to 30 feet or 2 stories. But on the west side of the block, we amended the code to permit these park under townhomes that from the setback line back 20 feet, there was an area that you could go up to 35 or 3 stories and then transition up to the 45 feet. But the step back requirement off of 300 South created this spot on the corner right here where you could only do 2 stories, even though we have always planned shown here and the same way they were shown and represented in December of 21 when we amended the code and then included these design drawings as attachments into the code. Our intent, again, with that step back off of 300 South was to address council concerns about the Main Street frontage and how that transitioned from the existing development to new development. And this here shows, this is 300 South here on this end, and it shows how the building steps up as it moves south from 300 South. The proposed correction to this ordinance that we're proposing to make is to take that 50-foot step back off of 300 South and make it only apply essentially halfway through the block to the west. So that 50-foot step back, or 50-foot step back that limits the height to 2 stories or 30 feet would extend 200 feet back into the block, and then the remaining 200 feet of the block could come to 35 feet or 3 stories adjacent to 300 South. So it would preserve the transition for the block face along Main Street between the existing development and the new, but still permit the 3-story townhomes on 100 West that we have been anticipating for the past year.
Does that need 200 feet from First West to the east?
It doesn't, no.
Why don't we just give them what they
Why don't we
need?
just give what's needed, rather than going just halfway between the block 200 feet or whatever? Am I understanding that right, or?
Because although it may not seem that way, this zone was written in anticipation of application to more than just this block, and transitioning that in the middle of the block makes the most sense from an urban design perspective. That we'd rather transition, provide that flexibility there, especially as we look at other blocks in the Main Street South Gateway zone. And really the only other block this would apply to, because it specifically applies to the 300 South frontage, would be the block to the north, and then the 2 blocks to the east across Main Street on the south side where the post office is, and the north side where the sandwich shop is, if the zone was extended to those areas. I don't know that it would be or could be.
The total block is 400 feet.
The total
You're just
block
talking
is
about
400
cutting it in
feet.
half.
Yes.
Okay.
That narrow drafting, while good, has been some of the reason we've been back a number of times for amendments as we've actually dealt with the practicalities and the realities of developing the block.
Okay, other questions? You understand what you're looking at? Okay, and the proposal, is this an amended? Tell me what this is. What
This
we're
is an
doing.
ordinance amending the Main Street South Gateway Zone.
Okay.
I get just one question. If you can go back to the picture, isn't there is an egress on 3rd South, right?
Yes, there
And
is.
Is that affected by giving them some? No, because it's really clear for far west of that road.
Yeah, this site plan is essentially set. If this developer, for some reason, walked away, then it could.
It doesn't affect that road at all, so
No.
that would be the only concern.
Yeah, that's your current entrance and exit into the parking lot on the north side.
Okay, other questions? Okay, do you young folks know what we're voting on? Okay, does that make sense? Okay. All right. Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's no questions, I'm open for a approval or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 03-2023, amending Springville City Code Section 11-4-708, paragraph 3, line B, pertaining to Main Street South Gateway regulations.
Okay, that's a roll call vote. Jason?
We didn't have a second.
Oh, I need a
I'll
second.
Yes.
Sorry. Jason, yes. Mike?
Yes.
Liz? Chris?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I would like to limit him to just what he's trying to accomplish. I think that's the spirit of what you're trying to do for him, so, and I would hope that he would keep within that spirit of it, so. So that's the definite maybe. How's that? Poor Josh is just, I'm kind of the height Nazi. All right. Wonderful. Move to number 8. Laura?
Hello, good evening. So, this is for consideration of some ordinances to our off-street parking ordinance. The proposed amendments came to be when we were in a recent review of a development for a new medical center. And in looking at it, the number of parking we were asking the applicant to give us, and he was like, no, that's crazy. It's like more than 2/3 of my site in parking. And so we thought, let's take a look at that. In our findings, Josh, do I have slides? Oh, perfect. So our current requirement right now is 1 stall for 150 square feet of floor area. When part of a mixed-use shopping center, it can be 1 stall per 225 square feet of floor area for the shared parking aspect of things. And then just to note, later we'll discuss our parking stall dimension minimums are 9 by 20 feet. Off-street parking requirements are based on peak demand, meaning that basically the study for when you're going to be the busiest, that's how much parking you're going to need. As you can see in this photo here, this is 3 medical offices under our current standard. There's plenty of parking to be had. Obviously, it's not at peak demand, most likely, but there's still oodles of parking on that. Surrounding cities, we are definitely the most restrictive. I couldn't find one that was as restrictive as us, to be honest with you. And the ITE, which is the Institute of Transportation Engineers Parking Generation Report, has it as the 1 per, 250. That's at the bottom, sorry. So that's kind of the average that they've studied nationwide to be. And so staff's recommendation is to decrease that amount to the 1 per 250 of square feet of floor area. And that would help with not having so much land being wasted for parking, as well as help this medical office with his site. The parking stall dimensions are also being proposed to be amended as far as the length of the stall. Our current requirement is 18 feet. More times than not, when a site plan comes in for me to review, it is already drawn at the 18 feet, and I always have to tell them our standard's 20. They have to go back and redesign it. So it's more of a, why are we 20 and everybody else is 18? I do drive a truck, and it's big and it's hard to park, but I can easily fit in an 18-foot stall as much as a 20-foot stall, and give, a little less land to be used with a pervious surface and stormwater runoff. So.
Yeah, but is your truck an F-350?
It's not a 350, it's a 1500.
It's kind of a joke between Josh and I.
I know. But if I feel like I'm in a too tight a space, I go park out and take 2 stalls. So,
So you need 2 stalls per occupant.
Just depends on, but most cars you can go out in any parking lot, and there's probably 6 to 8 feet behind that car in stall length that's just not being used or utilized. And the cost of land is, it means something. So anyway, the Planning Commission recommended approval for the amendments on January 10th, with 2 commissioners being excused.
Can you show the picture again and tell us where that's at?
Absolutely. This picture, and the one, you had several in your packet as well, but this one is on 450 South. It's right behind where the Zeppies is north of that. So it's where Stonehenge and all those medical offices are. Across the street is the IHC that probably is never a third full parked. And
Well, and they've changed their purpose too, so.
exactly. And then the South Valley Professional Plaza, which is a mix of dentists and professional offices, is got oodles of parking, always, so.
I get going in, back in more alignment or better alignment with other people's, size of the stall. I'm just wondering though, it just seems like we're making a big jump from 150 to 250. It just seems like there might be like a halfway or something like that. It seems like we're going from very extreme to kind of the other way. I don't know.
Staff is comfortable with the recommendation. I do know with the site that we were looking at, I can mention it's the one on 4th North and Main Street. They want to redo their building altogether, and basically our parking demand was making them take a whole floor off to even meet the stalls, so. And they feel very comfortable with the proposal for what their demand is. And future, they're actually proposing to have extra for future growth. And it's way under ours. I think theirs was 77 stalls and ours was requiring 128, which is almost double.
So, Laura, I understand that some other businesses throughout time, a few years back, have also had issues with our parking ordinance. Have you noticed that at all, or was
Yeah.
that just hearsay?
Yeah, I'm not.
You're not
aware.
familiar that's kind of been hard for some businesses to meet? You haven't ever heard of that?
For medical or?
Well, just for
talking
other,
different-
for businesses across the board, that some will say that the parking requirements are a little bit stringent here in
If
Springville.
they don't have the, yeah, I mean, we are. We are.
Yes, so that's what I was saying, I feel like it's appropriate because of, I think it's been a little bit of a struggle
Moving the
for businesses, the last few years to meet that requirement, so I feel like I'm okay with that. So thank you.
One question. With the other things, like what we just talked about with the Alex block, but by altering this, does that then give them the opportunity to come back in and request less parking in that block?
Well, they were kind of in a situation as well because their site was also designed to the 18-foot stalls. So they had 3 aisles of parking. With this would help them immensely to not have to totally redesign their site. That was,
It would actually bring them more parking then.
it would give them more room for
I
parking.
didn't want it to be so that they would have less.
No,
The-
it's only, the rate is only applicable to the medical office, and there's
Right.
a medical office in the Alex
Right.
block.
Well, we don't
But this
know
will,
yet 'cause
will
there's-
help them in the stall length.
But
if
as
it's
long as
reduced.
it's not gonna make it less.
Yeah, it may not mean much, but this 2 feet per stall depth is the difference in the Allen block of having landscaping in front of the townhomes on 100 West and having no landscaping in front of the townhomes.
That's good, it's a positive.
It
That's
is.
good.
Okay, other questions for Laura? I just give you my personal opinion is I think the 18 feet is very understandable. I'm much more in line with Mr. Miller, keeping it 200 because you give up parking and you've given it up and you can always change it in time. But I think just restricting parking and that sort of thing over time. Everybody uses the reasonings that the land's expensive and we need to justify. Well, I get that, but that's kind of the cost of also doing business is to provide the parking for your people. And it'd be really interesting to do an actual study before we really make a jump to 250. So I'm just much more comfortable at 200. But guess what, Laura? I have no vote. So it doesn't make a bit of difference what I say. So
But is the recommendation going to
Yeah,
250 or 225?
250.
So what's this 225 up here in the
Or is it
blue?
225, sorry. I should know this.
So up in the
Oh,
blue
it
line
was,
at the top?
it was at 225 if it's part of a mixed-use
Oh,
shopping center.
That's what it is currently.
so the
That's what it is.
150 is for medical and 225 is for mixed use?
The proposal is to amend it to 1 per 250 in accordance to the ITE and international transportation.
So let me make sure I'm clear then. You're suggesting that we go from 150 to 200 in medical
150 to 250.
to 250. And
That's it. For medical.
That's
and
all.
professional.
and to change the length from 20 feet
then
to
the length.
18 feet, but in terms of the mixed-use shopping center thing,
That-
leaving that at what it is?
That just goes away.
Oh, okay.
It'll just be a flat 1 per 250, regardless.
So you're going to raise the 225 to 1 to
A shopping center
250.
would need 1 per 300 square feet, so they'll cover each other if they're in there. A mixed shopping center, which has only happened once, and that got adopted for where Anytime Fitness is. There was a small chiropractor office in there, and he couldn't meet the parking, so we gave him the bump up to the 225.
So we're just going 250 across the board is what the recommendation is.
Correct.
But we could go to 225 across the board.
You could.
Okay, discussion?
I just think it'd be more, we could up it later if we had to, but why not just go up to the 225 and just standardize it? That's a little smaller jump than, not a huge amount, but it's kind of a compromise.
Well, but it will affect the medical center right now.
Well,
right?
it'd still be better than what it was.
But it would be
so.
better than what it was, okay.
Out of curiosity, what does the medical center have right now? Do you know?
Their proposal right now. And
No, not their proposal. What do they have?
Oh,
right
number
now?
of, no, I don't know, sorry.
Oh, okay. Because I've been there many times, and
could
there's
guess, but
always a
there's
ton of parking.
Exactly, and that's
Okay.
not as much as they're proposing, which is half
Wh-
of what we're requiring.
Which medical center is it?
One on 4th North and Main.
Does their staff park there, though?
Yeah, my brothers.
They do. Well, they're in the
always had
dirt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
On
don't
the
think
new
the
lot.
staff parks in the
Yeah.
parking lot. I've always had parking there too, but it's because the staff's not there.
That's why I was wondering how many stalls there were. But even before the staff started parking other places, there was always parking too. But I have a question on here, because there's what's called health, and then there's also medical clinic. What do we determine with health? Because health's already one for 150.
Oh, in ours?
Yeah.
Health.
Yeah, in the parking table.
Where are you looking, John?
If you just look down.
Oh, health
one,
and
two-
amusement?
Yeah, what's the difference between health and then,
That is probably for, I don't know. I was gonna say a recreation center, but that's the one underneath it.
I guess the gym could be fun and healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, health amusement,
Is that like the Clyde Center?
like the,
okay.
that's a good question, John. I'm not sure what health amusement is.
Well,
We should define that in our.
I'm not sure I'm not all that concerned about jumping from 150 to 250. I mean, my own building has way too much parking, and it always has, and we had to buy a chunk of ground simply because of this old ordinance. And, I mean, there's a few of us that park in there and a couple of customers coming and going throughout the day. I don't see the purpose of making a business buy all that ground and put all those parking stalls in just to make sure we have a place to park. Besides, you can ride your bike there.
There you go.
Okay, I'm open for either motion or more discussion.
Well, I'll
You wanna-
propose a motion.
What's that?
I can propose a motion.
You
and then
certainly
we
can.
just-
Okay.
Do we need more
Or
discussion?
do we need more
though?
discussion?
Do you want more?
I'm okay with
I'm not-
250. Jason
okay.
wants to go to 225.
I'm okay with,
I don't, if I had in my head the number difference of cars that could park between 225 and 250, if it's a handful, what's that? So if there's a 5,000 square foot building, it's 2.5 more.
That's right.
That's insignificant either way.
Yeah, I
That's
just,
helpful.
yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
okay. All right, I'll make a motion.
10 minutes ago.
What's that? Oh. Are we okay if I motion them? Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 04-2023, amending Springville City Code, section 11-6-113 pertaining to off-street parking requirements.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, that's a roll call vote. Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Good job, Laura. You did good. Okay, any other items we need to talk about tonight?
Mayor, I just had a
Yep.
quick question about the water conservation plan, Brad. We talked about this in a work session a couple of months ago. And we were just in one of those ULCT meetings and talking to some of the other city managers. They said if you signed up or made that goal or established that goal, like I think we've already done, that would make us, that would require us to like adhere to their rules in the future. It locked us into a contract of sorts. Is there anything to that? I mean, really, we're just putting a goal. We don't have a set plan. And then also there was an email from a resident who was asking if she could participate in the rebates.
This one. What's the extra charge we had?
Okay.
Which also means therefore they cannot get the grant or the rebate if we stay in that situation.
But it doesn't tie our hands with respect to future
Correct.
requirements. Great, thanks.
Okay, any other items that need to be discussed? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the council meeting.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. You did super.
Thanks for being here,
You were well maintained, you didn't fall asleep, and you ate a lot of candy, so that's good.
That's why they didn't fall asleep.